Well, once again, hello and welcome back. My name is Leith Dewis, and this is 2i Scene, where we see the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and history, etc., through a black lens, and hopefully we'll see it through a white lens, or you see it through your lens and see it through a lens of another man or somebody else. Like I said, this is a continuation from the last video. So if you want to look at that, please check it out. Now, all the earlier videos we looked at the impacts of colonisation and all the disadvantages and everything that happens to my people. Now we're going into a new, phase or conversation about engaging Aboriginal and Torres Strait people and moving forward, and what we can do as individuals, organisations, etc., to improve the health and well-being and everything to do with Aboriginal and Torres Strait people. So this is episode 23. And it is how do we actually engage Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and communities, in a safe, sensitive, safe and respectful manner. So in the past, government interventions, government laws, discriminative laws, etc., people just made the decision on what they're going to do for us, came into our communities, came into our families, came into our homes, and just enforce whatever laws they want to on us. Fast forward, we've now gotten a little bit better about those sort of things, and we're now starting to engage the people that we want to help in the hope that we can do things a little bit better. We still have cases where government agencies and the like and private organisations are still designing programs that aren't relevant, only because they haven't engaged us, they haven't discussed the processes with us. Now, how do we actually go into and engage with an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person and the broader Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities? Now, it's easy to engage the people that you work with because they're there, and they may be living in the city with you or an urban setting, and they're quite comfortable in communicating with you. Now, when you go out and engage the communities, it's not enough to just make sure you're doing the right protocols and you have understanding about the protocols. You have to actually engage how you're going to do it. So, when we're tasked with going into and consulting with the community, associating with the Aboriginal community, connecting with the Aboriginal community, it's important. That word is important, connecting. So, for the first step is obviously if you're doing a project, if you're doing some research, if you're doing developing a policy of some sort, that's important that you know who you're going to engage and what communities you're going to go to. So before you enter into any other community, if it's not an organisation that's easily accessible or a group that's easily accessible, and you're actually going to go out into rural, remote and traditional communities and island communities, it's important that you know this stuff. So first of all, you need to have an understanding of your target audience and where you're going. Who you're going to be talking to, because in one of the earlier videos I talked about our avoidance laws, where in traditional communities there's some clans that we can't talk to, that we don't engage, we don't associate, etc. So you have to have an understanding of that. So if you're going to do a collective engagement, obviously you're not going to put all those communities in the one room or put them all together when you're doing your engagement. That you will do it separately, because each community, even now, each community, each island home, etc., they all have their own experiences, their own practices, how they do their business, how they receive the business, so on. So know your audience, know who you're going to go to, what community you're going to go to. Then contact that community and get permission. You need to get permission to actually be in those communities, attend those communities. Now, it's not like the old days where people just marched on in, took us off our land and so on. Now, even in these missions, you need to get permissions to attend those missions and those communities to show the respect that you're not like a government agency just coming in there, and doing what you want to do, saying what you want to say and give orders, like they didn't used to back in the day. So know your community, find out who your communities are, and then you find out through those discussions of who the leaders are, who are the people that you're going to be talking to. It might be someone who may not be the leader, but they're going to be representing the community. They'll be your guide throughout this whole, or liaison officer or guide throughout this whole process. So know your target audience, know who you're talking to. As I said in a previous video, 9 times out of 10, when you are talking to an individual, that individual isn't an elder or leader. They're just a representative or spokesperson for the community. So you need to be aware of that. So once you know who you're going to be talking to, obviously you have to give them all the information, not bits and pieces, but give them all the information of why you want to consult them, why you're reaching out to them, why you're trying to connect with them. And it may be a case where they don't want to be involved, and that's okay. If you ask a question, and ask permission if they want, and get consent if they want to participate. Don't just assume that they do. So they might turn around and say, no, we've done enough consultations, we're not going to do it anymore. We've had enough people in here coming in here and doing research, A, B, C, D, or whatever. We don't want anyone here anymore, and that's perfectly fine. And you have to respect that decision and move on. So if the community decides that this is what they want to participate in, you know who the contacts are, you know who the elders are. Like I said previously in another video, there's a difference. You have to be careful here because there's a difference between an elder and an elderly person. Everyone assumes that all elderly people are elders, and that's not the case. In our traditional communities, our elders have roles and responsibilities when it comes to their family and their broader community. And yes, you still have to respect the elderly, those who are older, because they do have a lived experience as well, and you respect their opinions and so on. So once you find out all that, then you can engage and you get permissions, and they want to be part of the consultation. Then you can go into those communities. Be aware of who you send to those communities. Send people there who've got life skills, who've got experience. Don't try not to send some young upstart who thinks that they know best for Aboriginal Torres Strait people. But you're going in there to consult. You're going in there to learn and listen and hear what they're saying. So when you go to an Aboriginal community, you find out all that sort of stuff. Now you make arrangements of when you're going to go out. Now, in the governments and in broader society, time is money. Time is precious. We have a deadline. We have to this. You need to respect the time of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So none of this, we need to get it done by this date because we've only got this window and rah. That's not going to work. You need to do it on their time, when they're available, when they can have you in their community in the best time, because there's ceremonies throughout the year. It could be wet season, for parts of the year, all that sort of stuff. And so find out from them of when the best time would be, and you need to make arrangements to work around that, to work around their time and the community needs. So once you go there, you don't have to dumb things down. They're quite capable of communicating, negotiating, all that sort of stuff. So just go there with simple, basic information. Don't use fancy terms and all that sort of stuff. Give them clear information about why you're there and what the project is about. And more importantly, what the benefit is going to be to whatever it is, women or children or the whole community or men, whatever it is. Be very, very clear about the benefits of what are the strategies or policies or projects you are trying to develop and the reason why you're engaging them in the first place. Now, once you have that, once you go into these communities, into the Aboriginal community, and I'm talking rural and remote communities, it's no different to when you go to any other community, any other land council or any other Aboriginal organisation. When you go in there, when they say, we're going to go meet under that tree, for example, and we're going to have a yarn under that tree and you can talk business under that tree, that's where you're going to have the meeting. Don't say, maybe we should have it in the admin building or at the admin office at the school or wherever, where to you it's more comfortable for you. But if they say we're going to have it here, that's where you're going to have it, because even if it means you're sitting in the dirt, in a little yarning circle. That's where you're going to have the meeting, because those places are important, they're significant, and that's where people are just businesses discuss, decisions are made, and so forth. So that's where you're going to have the meeting. That's one thing. Also, when you go into these communities, be aware of your attire. So don't go in there with a suit and tie, because that meant when you go there, especially if you're a government official or your APS staff, for example, go in there, don't wear suit and tie, because when suit and tie come into communities, it meant bad news. It meant there were going to be laws or changes, or something was going to happen from government. So wear smart casual, but use your common sense and look at the weather, and wear what sensible clothing that is respectful to them and doesn't put the fear in the space. For our women, I mentioned in the last video, for our women, wear comfortable and suitable clothing. Don't wear midriff tops or mini skirts and things like that, because that's just disrespectful. Not only for the men that are there, but especially for our women. I mentioned an example like in the last video. So imagine how all the women feel like, hey, Lethe never been in any meeting for years, but there's one girl come and she got that midriff and she got that short skirt. He first one put his hand up and say, yeah, I'm going to go to that meeting today. And the issues and drama that can be introduced just simply because of what you're wearing. And you don't want to draw that attention to yourself, because you're out there as a professional. So be aware of your attire. When you explain things in the public service and in corporate businesses, private enterprise, we love our acronyms. We love using acronyms for things because we don't want to say the full word, or it's easy. Don't use acronyms when you go to these communities, because they don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what that means. So make sure you're clear when you're talking about programs and policies and who's who in the zoo, that you're not using acronyms. And it's not, like I said, not that people are dumb, but they need to know all the information and know what you're talking about and understand. I mean, I don't think half the public service know what they're talking about half the time when they use acronyms in meetings, and they just pretend to nod, but really they don't know what's going on. So don't use acronyms. Don't go there and have a big presentation with overheads and DVDs and big speeches and presentation and whiteboards and all that. Go there to have a yarn. You're introducing yourself to this community. So take that time so they can get that trust, because they don't know why you're there really. And so use, basic explanations. It's easy to understand for everyone. Don't use acronyms. Be clear in what you want the outcomes to be. And be aware that it's not going to just be 1 or 2 visits. It may take more than that, because the initial visits are just introductions for them to meet you and them to get to know you. And then over time, you're going to have to develop that trust. It's not a matter of, okay, we met them, next time we're going to go in and we're going to do all the surveys, we're going to ask all the questions, we're going to hand them out, we're going to do a rah, 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 rah. That ain't going to work either. So you have to build credibility in the community first. Spend some time getting to know the culture, get to know the region, get to know the people. And they'll be willing then to share things with you and engage with you. Don't just say, oh, well, we've got permission from the elders now, or the one of the leaders out there, that we can send out these surveys and they're going to deliver the surveys for us to all the houses, and we'll come back and close them. That's not going to work either. That's not how it works. So take the time to get to know the people, the communities and everything, and they get to know you. So once all that is done, it's important that you continue to engage people. Even after the project, give them updates regularly, explain where it's at. If you need more information, or if you've got enough information, and don't just leave it like, okay, we've consulted a company now, or a community now, and we can go in and just develop whatever the policy is. You need to spend that time and effort in engaging with the community on a regular basis to give them all the information they need of what's happened, where it's at, what's going to happen, what are the outcomes, etc. Now, in the Torres Strait Island community, it's the same. You contact the Torres Strait Regional Authority because they're all island communities, and the Torres Strait Regional Authority has management connections with all of our communities. And so contact them and they'll tell you, what the island communities are, who the leaders are, so on, and make those arrangements properly and professionally through all these community these community groups. They will tell you, and make sure, just like an Aboriginal community, you have someone who is a local, who is a representative, who is a guide who's going to show you who's who and what needs to happen when you go to. And if they don't share it, ask. Make sure you ask. Before you jump on a boat or a plane and go to an outer island, say to whoever you're with, look, listen, before we go, is there anything we need to know about this island group? Any protocols we need to be aware of? Anything that we need to do when we meet people? Are we allowed to call them? And it's the same in the Aboriginal community. Check if you're allowed to call them, auntie or uncle, if it's appropriate, and they will say yes or no. And so you find out all that information first. So when you go to the island community, you find out all that stuff and listen to what they're going to say. And then in the same process, you engage them. You don't use acronyms. You make sure it's clear, the information that you're trying to collect, because the information you're collecting is theirs, their knowledge. They're sharing their knowledge for you to develop whatever it is. So engage them in a respectful manner, and don't come in there as governments that you're bringing them something, that you're doing them a favour. Oh, but we're developing this project or this policy for you. I don't know why you have issues with it, because this is for you. This is your. Don't be coming in there like the mission manager or how governments used to do things. It may not be fit for purpose for that community, for that island community as well. So when you go to the Torres Straits, make sure you contact the right people, that you're engaging the correct people, and then they will introduce you to whoever they need to in the communities. And then the same process happens. Well, don't just say, okay, well, now that we know you, we'll email you all the questionnaires and if you can print them off and just, send them out to communities. It'll take 5 minutes for them to fill in the survey and send it back to us. That ain't going to happen. So you need to give them, whether you call it blackfella time or island time, you need to give them the time to absorb the information, understand the information before they give you guidance or advice around it. Now, once all that engagement is done, you need to protect that information and make sure you listen and follow that information. Don't say, well, we don't want to do that. It's too hard. We'll just do it our way. And yes, we've already consulted, but we'll make a few changes here. You don't change anything because it's our story, it's our information. Your development program that supposedly is supposed to help us, and we're telling you how you can engage us and how you can help us. So whatever the communities, when you engage them, whatever information that they share with you, that's the information that you're going to utilise in the development on your strategies, policies, programs, or whatever it is. And not say, okay, they're of the view of this, they all agree. So, we gave them option A and we gave them option B. Majority said option B, so we're just going to go with that. And yes, that works for us too. That's not what we should be doing. We should be saying, okay, it's a lot bigger than what we thought. It's a lot more complex than what we thought. So we're going to take our time with this and we're going to make sure that we do it right. So you need to get the engagement right when you go into the communities. You need to have an understanding. Now, when you talk to someone over the phone, and it's not whether you're developing policy, just when you're communicating or engaging Aboriginal Torres Strait people as part of your job, we have a tendency, and a broader community have a tendency that they ring up and they just give the information they want. Okay, hey, I'm ringing up for about this. Aboriginal Torres Strait people are different because of history and our cultural practices. We want to know a little bit about you before you yarn to us or before you engage us. So when you're on the phone, even if they're a client or whatever, get to know them first. Don't jump straight into business. Look, I'm ringing about your benefit or your payment, or you've got an application in. I'm just following up. Say, okay, hello, I'm so and so. How are you doing today? Just a normal build rapport, and get to know them. Now, because we're getting a lot of information from Aboriginal Torres Strait people in those situations, give up something of yourself some basic information about yourself. So if someone says, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't, answer last week because I had to take my son to basketball," and if you're a basketballer or you know a bit about basketball, engage that. Have a conversation about that. The world's not going to end because you're getting to know someone, have a little yarn and doing something polite with someone. "Oh, yeah, well, I played basketball. What position does your son play?" Or, "Have you ever played yourself?" And then when you share some of your family and your practices and whatever, then some of the guards come down and then we're good to go. So remember that. Build the rapport first, whether you're on the phone, whether you're face-to-face, etc. So engagement can work when it's done properly, and you can get all the right information when it's done properly, and they'd be willing to share the information if it's done properly. And like I said, Torres Strait Island people are no different. If you're like anyone, if you're being ignorant or you're not listening or whatever, that's the end of the conversation. That's the end of the engagement, and you don't want that to happen. So share something of yourself. Whether they just be a client that you're trying to help. It doesn't even have to be consultation. It can be just how you deal with your clients, your Aboriginal Torres Strait Island clients. Is don't just jump into business because, we've never done that. That's not how we work. We get to know someone before we yarn with them and give them. And it's hard because you're at the other end of the phone, is that you might know all the information about them. They don't know nothing about you. You're just a stranger on the phone asking all these questions, giving them the information they need, but they don't know anything about you. So you have to develop that trust and that credibility. And where possible, have Aboriginal people involved. Have Aboriginal people in the discussion. Have Torres Strait Island people in the discussion, whether they be your liaison officers or whatever the case is. When you have your face-to-face consultations, make sure if you can, you have an Indigenous person with you, an Aboriginal Torres Strait Island person with you. Now, it also may be a case where you want to take someone in your office, and this is the other cultural practices on the other side. In an earlier video, I talked about avoidance laws, where some of our clans, we don't talk to each other, we don't engage each other, and that's bad blood there, so we don't do it. So we need to respect that too. So when you are asking your staff to come with you, also check in with them if they're comfortable in visiting that community. Because don't just say, "Oh, yeah, you got to come because you're Aboriginal, you got to come because you're Torres Strait." It may be a case that there is an issue there, there's a family issue, there's a community issue, and they're too shame or too shy. It's their mind, it's their personal business. They don't want to share it with you. And so accept the fact that if people say, "Oh, no, sorry, this situation happened and I don't think it's a good idea if I go," and don't force the issue and say, "No, you're a government person now. You're working for us or working for me. You're going to come," because that's the most irresponsible thing you could ever do for that community and for that person and that and your staff members' families as well. So respect everything, whether they be clients or staff. Respect the processes, respect the protocols. If you don't know, ask. If you don't understand why something is happening, ask. When you go there, some communities, traditional communities, might do a little ritual to welcome you there. Ask about it if it's too different for you, and they'll explain it, and then it'll make sense to you. So when you engage our communities, you need to do it properly. You need to do it respectfully, and you need to open your eyes and two eyes seeing. See it through your lens, but see it through their lens. In these in these traditional communities and island communities, English is their second language or third language, and so you need to show that respect for that, and not just look at time is money. We've got a deadline, we need to send this up to senior executive, so the Secretary or Minister needs to approve it by this date, or whatever. That you're going to do it in respect to their time, whether it be blackfella time or whether it be island time, that you're just going to do it the way that they will like it done. So I hope this little quick discussion about engaging Aboriginal Torres Strait Island people help. Engage your staff because they have the information. If you need extra information outside of that circle, then of course look at Aboriginal organisations that you could connect with. And then if you're still not happy or still not get enough information that you need, go to the community, especially if it's a policy that impacts Aboriginal Torres Strait people in general, right across the nation. So you can get clarification on these things. And the reason why I mentioned, go to other organisations is because you may not need to reinvent the wheel. They've got that information there, and you can base some of your decisions on that. But show respect, whether it's an individual or one person you're talking to, or whether it's a group or a family or a whole community, that you give them the opportunity to practice their culture. And you will learn something amazing, I'm telling you. You will enjoy the experience. It won't be a difficult experience. It won't be a scary experience. You'll want to do it time and time again as you learn more about communities and engagements and even the internal politics. And that, like I said at the very beginning, the person you may be talking to or want to engage may not be the representative. They're just known, they're just known as the voice, or they've been seen on TV or, whatever. Or they're just big noting themselves. But internally, they don't have that authority. So you need to seek that information out. So hopefully this all made sense to you in how you engage my people, and make sure you do it in a manner that is appropriate, sensitive and respectful. So hope you got something out of it. If you did, share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, when you do go to these places, go to these communities, whether they be urban, mission communities or traditional communities or island communities, yes, see it through your eyes on what you want to do, but more importantly, see it through the eyes of others, and you will learn, and it will be a very, very powerful thing. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it and got a little something out of it, and I'll talk to you on the next one.